My name is Jonah Fielko, and I'm the CEO of Bracketology.tv, fantasy sports for reality television. We offer fantasy games for shows like The Bachelor, Survivor, Big Brother, RuPaul's Drag Race, and counting. You start by creating a community. Within your community, you can create a fantasy league for each show that you want to play fantasy games for. Within the league, you can choose up to 3 of our 4 game types, and our most popular is the Advanced League. Choose a team of contestants, and depending on what they do and say during the episode, that's how your team will gain or lose points each week. We also have elimination-style games like our Confidence Pool. This is where you choose how confident you are that each contestant will survive elimination that week. And we've also got March Madness-style brackets. Come back a couple hours after the episode to check your scores and watch you climb the leaderboard. Bracketology is free to play, so grab your friends, your family, your coworkers, and head to bracketology.tv for more info.
What's up, everybody? My name is Randy Bruce for the Survivor Now podcast, and welcome to your Week 8 Fantasy Outlook powered by Bracketology, fantasy sports for reality TV. And last week, let me just say, in our first week doing this, I did a pretty decent job at predicting some things. I'm just going to go ahead and say it, that your top scorer for last week was Franny at 27. I had her in your the people you want to play. Carson had a very good week as well. He had 8, and then we did I dropped the ball with Jamie. I thought Jamie was coming off a hot week, and she only got us, well, she didn't get us anything. She got us a big fat 0. But we had to say goodbye to Matt last week. He got you -5. Which that was the number one thing that was predicted correctly, is the fact that Matt was the person I thought would be heading home, just based off how they were kind of advertising the episode. And we're going to get into that again today, how they're advertising for episode 8 of Survivor 44. As always, you guys can check out the scores to our Mergatory competition on our Instagram at Survivor Now Podcast. If you still want to join in the Mergatory competition, see what it's all about, maybe you still have time to catch up. You know, if you have some great teams put together, you can still make a run for the top spot. There will be a link in the bio by tomorrow where you can click that link and join in before Wednesday night's episode. In terms of coverage for this week of Survivor, we will be doing a recap with Dino Palau from Survivor South Africa on Thursday, as well as Survivor Social will be Thursday night as well. All right, let's get into the actual fantasy outlook here. So, as always, just like last week, I'm going to start off with 3 players that I think you should be looking at and you should be putting in your lineups for this week, and then 3 players that you should avoid as well. I will tell you who I think is the number 1 player to avoid, who I think is going home, so you can make sure not to play them in your confidence pool and not to have them in your lineup. So, first player I want to talk about this week, Brandon. He had a great episode last week. If it wasn't for Franny's amazing immunity win, he would have won the first individual immunity challenge. And he still did, because there was that awful twist where 2 people won individual immunity. Brandon had another solid week for you guys, getting you 10 points. He had a solid week the week before that. Back-to-back weeks where Brandon is in your top 5 fantasy scores. I think you should power him up in the lineup again this week. I think he proved that he is going to be a challenge beast. That's something that I was getting a feeling of. I had a feeling that Brandon was going to be a huge challenge threat this season. If you just look at the rest of the cast, Brandon doesn't have much competition outside of Franny, I guess, So I think Brandon is a safe bet to get you some fantasy points. And then not only because of the individual immunity challenge, but I also think he's relatively safe this week. I will get into how Ratu and Soka are going to be going after each other. That's how they've kind of been advertising this episode. So I do think it's going to be someone from either Ratu or Soka going home, but I don't think it's going to be Brandon. And looks like Survivor Drip disagrees with me. I got a bad feeling for Brandon. Well, Survivor Drip, thanks for joining. And also, love your profile picture. Let's talk about your boy Carson. Carson is the second player that I have as someone you want to get in your fantasy lineups this week. Okay. So we saw in the preview, Carson is throwing up. Carson is super sick. So I know some people might be worried that he could be the third medevac this season. I don't think so. I think if Carson was going to be a medevac, they wouldn't be showing him in the previews throwing up. I don't think they would build up to make you think someone's going to be medevac to then just end up taking him out of the show. Because of that reason, I think Carson is safe. I don't know if Carson's going to be in great enough shape to win the individual immunity challenge, but I think that Carson is in a fantastic position with his alliances at the moment. He's got connections with Ratu. We've seen him be close with Kane. We've seen him close to Brandon. He still has his core alliance from what we can see with the Tika tribe. Jam himself and Carolyn, they seem to get along really well. So I think Carson, I keep saying it, Carson might be in the best position at the current moment. I'm a little worried. At some point, if people get talking, they might realize that Carson is playing the field, and that could spell danger for Carson. But I do think he is the second player you should get in your lineup this week. I love Survivor Drip. I love Carson. Don't we all? And yeah, Sarah Marsh, amazing from Survivor Australia. Third player you guys should play this week, Franny. She is becoming the LeBron James of Survivor Fantasy. I'm trying to think, the Cooper Cup, if you're talking football terms. Sorry for bringing sports into this, but Franny has been the go-to for points. Her boyfriend just went home. We're going to be getting some confessional points from Franny. She absolutely was a beast in that challenge, an endurance challenge where she outlasted the entire field to win. I think Franny has proven that she has what it takes to be a huge contributor when it comes to fantasy. All right, now the three players you want to avoid this week. First off, let's talk about Kane. I did mention him and his relationship with Carson, but they have been advertising this Ratu versus Soka battle that's going to happen this week. We saw it where I believe it was people from Soka talking about how they need to target someone from Ratu. Vice versa. You got to imagine Ratu feels the same way about Soka. I'm worried about Kane. Kane just seems like someone who could be gone at any moment. And this feels like a week that he could be eliminated. Second person you want to avoid this week, Heidi. Same reason, the Soka Ratu battle. Heidi seems like someone that is disposable in a sense. She's not a super big player. We haven't got a lot of screen time from Heidi so far this season. We did last episode when she found the twist, and she did really good. She was actually the second highest scorer with 17 fantasy points. I do expect that total to come down, however, and I don't know if I would be trusting Heidi in your lineups this week, because if Ratu decides to throw out a name, let's say they throw out Danny's name. Danny finds out about that. He plays his idol. Yes, you could then say Ratu is going to lose someone, or maybe they find out that Danny has an idol. Remember, they were talking about it last week when Matt and Brandon kind of put the pieces together that, oh my God, Danny must have it. So if they make Danny believe it's him to flesh out that idol, why not just go after Danny's right-hand lady and Heidi and get her out instead? So I'm worried about Heidi this week. And then the third person I would not want on your team is Danny, because of the reason they could be targeting him because they know he might have an idol. So maybe they don't go the route of making him feel safe. Instead, they decide, let's not say anything, go along with this plan to vote Jam out. Maybe Jam's name gets thrown out again. And then let's blindside Danny to get that idol out of the game. So just a quick recap on that. Players that you should be playing in your lineup: Brandon, Carson, Franny. They have been really consistent in fantasy points. Players that you don't want to be playing: Kane, Heidi, and Danny. And in terms of who I think is going home this week, if you do the confidence pool, I do think, can we go 2 for 2? I do think it's going to be Heidi. I have a really bad feeling about Heidi this week. possibly flushing Danny's idol, making it believe that he's going home, and then targeting his right hand in Heidi. So in order of how concerned I am for these players, Heidi, number 1, I think she's going to be the person getting eliminated this week. Kane, number 2, if Danny and Heidi and the Soka gang are able to flip the vote and potentially get out Kane. And then Danny, just because he's got that idol, who knows if they try to flush it? Who knows if they try to blindside him? Those are the 3 people that I would be really concerned about this week. But I would be leaving Heidi as far away from your lineups as humanly possible. Again, if you guys want to join into the Mergatory competition that we have, or you just want to play Survivor Fantasy on Bracketology, make sure to hit the link in the bio. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at Survivor Now Podcast, and follow Bracketology on Instagram as well. And this has been your Week 8 Fantasy Outlook, and I'll see you again next week. Best of luck with your lineups this week, everyone.